Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Untitled Anime Show. In this episode, we review the Ancient Magus Bride. Sadar, what was this show all about?
Well, the show is based off a manga series that's serialized by the Mag Garden's monthly comic garden,
That's a mouthful.
and it's a mouthful. The anime was produced by Wit Studios and licensed by Crunchyroll, so you can find it streaming on Crunchyroll or Funimation. And although the manga is still ongoing, the anime was only a two season series.
Yeah, and it's important to
And
note that this also is available in English dub for those of you watching and having issues with subtitles.
yeah, it's available as both. And the basic premise is that an orphaned high school student who's been ostracized by her family and by uh, most of most everybody around her has decided to sell herself at an auction in London. Her name's Chise Hattori, and she is purchased by a 7 foot tall humanoid creature named Elias Ainsworth for £5 million.
That I don't care who you are, that's a lot of money, folks. That's an expensive little schoolgirl right there.
Yeah, I believe at the beginning of the series she's 15.
Which is important to remember.
Yeah, that first episode was weird.
That first episode is weird. So we first, or I, for example, first found this one. If you go on to YouTube, Crunchyroll does a really cool thing where then their new series comes out, they'll cut 1 or 2 episodes on YouTube to watch. So you find out if you're going to like it or not. It's kind of a way to entice you to get their service. So I watched the first episode. It was different. And I ended up finding it on Crunchyroll then and watching through the whole series. But this one was outside of your wheelhouse, Duck. So why don't we start with you? What'd you think of this one?
I actually really liked it. So when you were first telling me about it and we were discussing it as a potential show to review, I was captivated by the names because it was a lot of names I know from mythology and playing video games and stuff. You threw out Oberyn, you said about Muse, or Moose, or I don't, however you
Muse.
say it.
Muse.
Yeah, Muse. Okay, yeah. So that got my attention. I'm really fond of all kinds of different mythologies, and I love creatures. So, even though there's not a lot of action, this had plenty of creatures to keep me interested the whole time.
Excellent. Sadar?
I binged the heck out of this, and I'm not even sure still why it was so captivating. It's not my normal. It's not the normal type of anime that I like. I also enjoyed the references to popular mythology, but it was just such a fun, artsy, I think I can call it artsy, relaxed anime to watch.
Yeah, so you both referenced the fact that with the names. Now, anime, they painstakingly do research on names. And you'll see that not just in this one, but in anime in general. Except when it comes to Christian mythology, whereas they like to use Christian mythology, but they will take, and you'll have characters, say in some series it has to do with hell, they'll have a character named Satan. They'll have a character named Lucifer. They'll have a character named Beelzebub.
Yeah.
For some reason, they just can't get Christianity right. But this one, it's not just they delve into Christianity in this one as well. And there is one character who is I'm going to say the big bad of the series. And the name that they chose, which I can't even say, Sadar, maybe you're able to. The name they chose is a very, very obscure reference from Christian mythology. Very obscure reference. And maybe Sadar can explain that just a little bit because I can't. She can.
I can't tell you his name without looking it up. I'm sorry, but I can tell you that the big bad in the series, as Raz puts it, is a very obscure reference of a Roman, I think he was just a Roman house servant who said something rude to Jesus Christ when he was carrying his cross through the streets on his way to crucifixion. So Jesus basically said, or that's what it was. He told Jesus to hurry up, and Jesus said, "You wait right here, and I'll be back."
Not maybe in those exact words, but pretty close. And as a result, this character is now cursed with immortality and stuck roaming the earth until the second coming. So,
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's what
didn't know that.
that was one of the things that I really like secondary enjoyed about this show is there were certain breadcrumbs that just made me obsessed to want to do research because they gave you so much except for certain characters.
Hmm.
And then they gave you very little, like Elias. I was obsessed with Elias. What is he? Why won't they tell us what he is?
yeah, they never actually say for sure what Elias is. But just going into it and you start researching, when you get a little snippet of information about him, which I'm not going to spoil, um, it actually goes back to Native American mythology. So,
Hmm.
and I will believe that's what he is a Wendigo. Duck knows a little bit about that, and as soon as I said it, everyone's eyes like, yes, yes, that's right, that's got to be right.
Hmm.
But so the crux of the series is, as Sadar said in her synopsis, the main character Chise, she is just done. She's done with life, and she's just like, I'm done. So she ends up selling herself, and she is purchased by this magician, essentially, Magi, who takes her back to his home and says, "Okay, well, I bought you because you're going to be my apprentice." And she actually is a species that is not entirely human, and she is not going to have a long life, is what we find out pretty early on in the series. So that's not much of a spoiler. But she is able to channel magical energy better than most people would be able to, even the magical creatures we encounter throughout the whole series. And going back and forth with the big bad, which none of us can pronounce. It's a Hebrew name, or I'm sorry, a Roman name, and it just goes on and on. You can go down this rabbit hole of research, and you're going to end up doing a term paper on mythology and Christianity. So, excuse me. The series ends up having a definitive ending for the anime. So I was very pleased with the ending. It didn't like just leave it like, okay, we might make another season later on. They gave you an ending. Now, could they come out with a season later on? Yes, but it's not open ended. They actually cut it, and I think they did a very good job with it. And the art I thought was very well. But let's talk about that when we do our scores here, Duck. So let's start with you. What did you think? With your scoring here, and is it for originality?
So for originality, I gave it a 3, just because I felt when your source material is like thousands of years old, then it's not. It's not just like that's not. They're not. This isn't the only anime that draws from that. It's a very unique series, but it's not an original premise. So I put it right down in the middle of that 3.
Okay, Sadar, originality.
I thought it was a very original series, very original story. But, and maybe that's because it's not what I normally look for in the anime that I watch. But the reason I didn't give it a perfect score is because it's not the first time I've encountered any type of story about a young, naive girl who falls in love with a monster.
Oh, I see.
Good point. She's got a point, folks. This is a Beauty and the Beast kind of storyline. Now that I think about it, I did give it a 5 for originality because while it does have names and characters taken from mythology, it's being told in a new way. It's being told in a unique way. And we're seeing aspects of characters that haven't been told in other stories. And it's kind of like an Avengers type thing where we're drawing all these different mythologies into one movie. And I really enjoyed the way they did that. Duck, what'd you think of the quality?
Overall, really good. The only thing I took a point off of for quality, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Was that, and there's a chunk in the middle where it felt like it was getting really repetitive, where like each episode had a formula where they go out, we meet a new fantastical creature, she gets stabbed, and then they heal her, and then it's everybody's happily ever after. You know what I mean? So that was the only thing I felt was lacking. But overall, like really, really good. I was enticed most of the time.
We do have that kind of anime formula of fight, 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 friend.
Yeah.
Sadar
And
quality.
she always gets stabbed by every single episode.
Yeah, this girl should just like see a knife and run. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Sadar?
Well, didn't she get stabbed twice in the last episode? Like, she got a twofer, didn't she? Am I remembering that wrong?
I don't know, but maybe we shouldn't talk about the last episode.
Yeah. All right.
So quality.
So for quality, I gave it a 4. I thought it was a beautifully drawn anime. I thought it was, well rounded. But in the second season in particular, it seemed to there in the middle for a while kind of drag. It was a bunch of episodes where we didn't get much traction in the storyline. So, but other than that, I thought it was worth hanging on for.
Yeah, and I also gave it a 4. So we had 4s across the board for quality. And again, it was the same reason as Duck and Sadar. There was just a couple filler episodes that were not needed. I really don't think they were needed.
I think we're all talking about the same chunk.
Probably. Yeah. There was a chunk of episodes there, and they were in season 2. And it just meh. But while we're talking about quality, there was the intro music for season 1, superb. There actually is an artist that I absolutely adore who does anime covers. Her name's Amelie, and she does a great English cover of the song. The second season, not so much a fan. I was actually wishing they had the skip button for the intro like they do on Netflix for the second season. So I'm not going to say that affected my score, but I'm just throwing it out there. So moving on to fan service. Duck, you gave us a 3. Why'd you give it a 3?
So the the couple of the characters, I know it's like mythology and stuff, but it seemed like they were unnecessary. It was just unnecessary sexualization. The thing that it's like the parasite thing. That fairy that like basically a succubus kind of deal.
Pretty close, yeah.
Just naked and like being in weird poses all the time, resting her breasts on like the main character's head and stuff. I just felt like was unnecessary. And then is it Tatiana or Titania?
Titania.
Yeah. There was when they introduced her character, they show a full like body shot of her, and she's standing still, but like her breasts are just like bouncing around.
And I will point out with that scene in particular when they first introduced Titania, if you have the volume up on your TV, you will hear sloshing.
See,
I'm not even joking. There is sloshing.
Unnecessary. It doesn't add to the lore. There's just no point in that. Like, you just wanted to draw boobs, I guess. I don't know.
That being said, I don't believe that this is a mature rated show. Would you, Sadar?
No.
Like, how would you describe it age wise for appropriateness? By American sensibilities.
PG-13.
Yeah, I mean there was stuff there. I mean, I scored it as a 2 because I didn't think it was over the top. It's just a cultural difference. And the one character that Duck references that is he referenced as naked isn't naked but close. And it's actually fitting for that character, I think. If I was trying to describe everything that goes on with that character, in that she is similar to what a succubus is, in that she inspires people but takes away part of their vitality. But when you say inspire, do you inspire them with anecdotes and words of wisdom, or do you inspire them with, hey, look at my boobs? Right. So I think that was appropriate for the character. The Titania stuff, I don't believe that was needed. It was just there because somebody thought it was, I like boobs.
Yeah, no, there's an argument that can be made for the parasite. But
yeah, what was your opinion there, Sadar? For fan service,
I agree. Well, for fan service, I gave it a 2. I agree that for the succubus-like character, there's an argument that could be made. And I was actually impressed for most of the characters how conservatively they were drawn. For Chisei, she was pretty conservatively drawn. Their house spirit was very conservatively drawn. I understood also for the, I wasn't quite clear if it was the forest spirit or what that was renewed and birthed every year. That was also drawn pretty scantily clad, but I get that if it's a fertility fairy or goddess or whatever it is. But most of the harsh ratings for me on this are to Tanya. I thought that was
Mhm.
excessive and just
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Yep.
and
The sloshing is what did it for me. That's what got the score for me, was the
and
sloshing.
it was so out of place with the rest of the characters and the way they were drawn.
Yeah. In almost all of the promotional art, Chisei is wearing, a Japanese schoolgirl outfit. I think we may have seen that once in a flashback.
Yeah.
She's not. She's actually dressed like a British teenager most of the time, and nothing revealing at all, really. I think which it lends a lot to her psychological scarring that she has. I think it was what you'd expect someone that has that kind of trauma to dress conservatively like she was. So I
Hmm.
think a lot of good research went into that. So moving on to depth, why don't we start with Sadar?
Okay, I gave this a 4 rating also. I thought that there was a lot of attention played to the back and forth, especially in Chisei's mind, her struggling with her feelings of acceptance and comfort in Elias's house, and just the evolution of her character, I think, was very natural and um, normal. I thought that showed a lot. And I also really appreciated the interactions that some of Elias's colleagues had with both him and Chisei as his apprentice. And I really enjoyed the one human female colleague, her reaction to how Elias and Chisei interacted her first day as his apprentice without revealing too much. I thought that was all just really fun details that made the story more believable.
See, when I'm looking at the depth for this one, I scored it a 4, and mainly because I was really impressed that they fleshed out every character's backstory. You knew a little, just enough about every character that you can fill in the blanks and have a good idea of who this character is, without having the obligatory, what's the word I'm looking for? The origin episode for every single character. If this had been a long running series, we're talking 50 to 100 episodes, I guarantee you it would have been every single character would have had an origin story. But they didn't. Thank God, because I liked it the way it was. There's a couple characters I would like to have referenced more. Like when we talked about the big bad, we had to go through and research that character because it seemed like there's enough information here. They had to have pulled it from somewhere, but they did never actually came out and said it. I wish they would have. I wish they would have come out and talked about that more, but they didn't.
Now, see, I love that. I love shows and books and things that they give you just enough that you can take it further yourself. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
Raz,
you're
but
absolutely
I
fine.
disagree with you there.
How about you, Duck?
So I gave it a 5 out of 5 for depth. And while I was watching it, I actually texted Raz and I was like, "Dude, this is The Witcher, but the anime." Like it's just like the Witcher Netflix series. Maybe it's not so much about combat, but it's about you know every day, every episode is like a new adventure, and you're going and finding a new creature that exists in this world. And it's not that it's newly discovered, it's existed amongst all these characters the whole time. So all these new monsters and creatures, they all have interacted. It was really good world building because they Chisei's meeting somebody new, so we're learning about it from Chisei's perspective, but then we get to find out what everybody else knows about it and how it's interacted throughout the time. So the combination of that, all that, and plus how much I love the monsters and everything, and then also the way they made it perfectly believable that this 15-year-old girl through her traumatic past, falls in love with a monster, and just like you said, it's completely natural, Sadar. It's all added up to the perfect 5.
All right. So finally, we come down to binge ability, and we have some varying scores here, but not much. Sadar, you gave this a 5.
I did. I gave it a 5 out of 5. And we've talked about the traumatic past and Chise's traumatic past, but we haven't really touched on Elias's own traumatic past, and we don't really get much of that until the second season. But I think I wanted to binge the first season because it was just such a beautifully drawn and beautifully written story, and everything blended together just seamlessly. But by the second season, I was really hanging on to just see if we could get 2 characters who have both had such sad lives, some happiness. And maybe that's the girl in me. I don't know, but I wanted them to have a happy ending, both of them.
All right. Duck, you gave this a 4.
Yeah, I guess I just took off a little bit just because like every episode is so wrapped up usually. There's not too many episodes that ends where like I gotta see what's happening next. There's no way I'm waiting until next week to see this next episode. So it was just most of the episodes end with a nice closure story. So it wasn't like I had to watch the next episode, and I watched it in like 3 to 4 episode chunks. Every day when I got home from work, I just watched like 4 or 5 episodes.
Well, you also told me that something happened at your house that isn't really something that's that common. Is your girlfriend watched it?
Yeah. Yeah, she usually reads, and she'll read in the same room as me. That way we're hanging out. But this show, and a lot of times she'll look up and like be interested in things, but this time she put the book down to watch most of this with me.
All right, well, I gave it a 5 because I actually did binge the whole thing in a weekend. I watched the whole both seasons of it in one weekend. So I have to go off practicality and say, well, I did binge it, so we're going to go with that. So I believe that we did the math, and our Metascore that we came up with was 4 out of 5 Silkies. So 4 out of 5 for this one. Definitely, in my book, go out and watch it. It's available on Crunchyroll. It's available on Funimation. And the first 2 episodes are actually available on YouTube. Sadar, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do we do?
Oh, I'm definitely giving it a thumbs up.
Should we go out and watch it immediately, or just put it in our queue?
I would say go out and watch it immediately. Your genre or not, give it a shot. It was a really well-rounded, well-defined story.
And Duck, final words?
Yeah, definitely. If you're somebody that's interested, if you like dragons, like video games where you go out and hunt monsters, this is the kind of thing that you're probably going to be interested in.
Absolutely. I agree with everybody's sentiments here. This is a great anime. And Duck, I believe you've picked our next one. So what's next on our watch list?
Next, I've decided to do a little something off the beaten path, and we're going to review Your Lie in April.
Your Lie in April. Okay, that's next up on the Untitled Anime Show. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, as well as our Twitch channels, all of us respectively. And you can also watch the Mount Moon Review podcast, if you're into Pokemon, on Monday nights at 8:30 on my Twitch channel. That's Eastern Standard Time, as well as on our YouTube channel. All of us are on... Actually, no, Sadar, we need to get you on Twitter yet. But Duck and I are both on Twitter. Mine is _Raspberry01. Duck's is Blue Duck Gold Duck. That's Blue Duck Gold Duck without the E. And we will see you on the next exciting episode of the Untitled Anime Show. Thanks for watching, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.